All right, we're now broadcasting live. Welcome everybody that's joining in. What's going on, Scott? What's going on, Corey? MH. Thank you guys so much for joining here. We are just currently waiting for our expert trainer to join us. Funny enough, we were just doing a tech check and he was on the beach. So his Wi-Fi wasn't great. So I told him to go back to his house, which is 2 minutes from the beach. So he is almost back to his office and he's going to join us live with a much better Wi-Fi connection. And Kyle Good is going to drop some knowledge on all of you about how to source off-market properties from real estate agents. Curious show of hands if there's any real estate agents on this call right now. And also, if you can hear me at all, go ahead and type in the Zoom webinar chat box just to say hey, to make sure that I'm not talking to no one here. Anna is a realtor. Nice. Realtor / investor, I'm assuming. Awesome. What's up, Scott? You're just talking to no one. Thanks, Mike. Always good to know that there are ears on the other end. Awesome. How's it going, Faith? Awesome. I'm using my headphones today, so the sound quality might not be great, but it'll get the job done while we wait for Kyle Good to arrive. So Kyle and I know each other from our mutual real estate entrepreneur friend group in San Diego. And hey, Jeremy, how's it going? And I know him because we used to work with CT Homes, which is the acquisitions arm of Fortune Builders, the big coaching company. And when I first met Kyle, he was actually working at CT Homes as an analyst, and he'll kind of explain his story a little bit once he joins us. He got really, really good at sourcing deals from the MLS. And then also he was really good at just analyzing ARVs and just getting the offers really, really competitive where they need to be in San Diego. And here he is now. Start my video. What's going on, Kyle?
Hey, Mr. Dan. How are you?
We are live broadcasting right now. I wanted to start this to make sure people weren't waiting
Beautiful.
too long.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. And I was just letting people know that right before this, I was looking at you with the beach in the background.
Yeah, unfortunately, connection for video calls. So thanks for being flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. The pros and cons of working on the beach is that sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't that good.
Next time.
So I don't know if you intended on this to happen, but I think your AirPods disconnected for a second.
Are they still disconnected?
I can hear you, but I could sense that the sound changed.
It's swapped over, so can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thanks for letting me know.
All right, so we have a nice little turnout here of people that are gonna get their minds blown by what you have to share. I
Awesome.
sort of gave a very general overview about how we know each other and how you used to be an analyst for CT Homes. I'll kind of let you share the story of how you transitioned out of that and how you kind of gained the experience that you're about to share with everybody.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, excited to be here. Excited to share. Hello to everyone that has shown up today. Really excited to share with you a few cool things. So, not sure how much of a background you gave on them, Dan, but it's kind of taking off from what you were just saying. So I used to work at this small little company here in San Diego called CT Homes. If you guys have seen, they've been on that show, Flipped Out House. And basically, I worked with this company as an analyst. So I used to be the one that was, crunching all the numbers and really reviewing the deals, and wanted to get into sales. And so I started to work on the weekends and worked off the clock and really just worked on acquiring, one of their biggest properties that they've ever done. And it was like $250,000, something crazy. So I helped acquire that property. So I'm, expecting to, get into the process of sales and become a salesperson finally. And then I get hit with the smallest check that I could have expected. And I decided to quit that day. And then I learned to.
How much did they make on that deal?
They made I think around $250,000. That's what they were projecting.
Huh.
And, I showed up to the meeting, I'm thinking here, I'm going to get this huge, bonus and, upgrade into the next part of my training there. And they gave me $1,000. And if anyone really knows, what a deal like that should really, even an agent making, I think they made like 16 grand on it. I realized that it wasn't really, I wasn't cut out for being an employee and someone that's working in a big company like that. So I decided to quit, and I was still in college at this time, and this was 6 years ago. And so while I was in class, I was combing the MLS and trying to figure out how to really make it in this business. And I kind of figured out that I needed to try things differently and leverage technology and my understanding of how agents work, and just really understanding what makes a good deal, kind of all bringing it all together to really be able to compete in this industry. And I don't know if you and your people that are on the call here know how competitive San Diego is, but it's like sharks in the water, man.
Yeah.
House get listed on the first day, it's got 10 offers cash. So you gotta be different.
So I like to start with that notion that you can't get any deals from the MLS, especially in a market like San Diego. And in fact, my gut instinct about markets like San Diego is that, like, don't even bother looking on the MLS, because it's just all retail. It's all top market. It's all competitive bidding. You're buying properties, distressed properties, especially, at the very possible max, even above what you would potentially buy it on, making the margin super, super slim. So therefore, investors that are typically buying distressed properties just completely shy away from the MLS. What is the danger in completely shying away from the MLS?
Sure. I mean, listen, let's not make any mistakes about it. The houses that are on the MLS are likely not the best deals. So whoever's thinking that, like, they're probably right. It really, in order to be competitive, and what I found is that you need to be on the phones all day, every day, and be like the first person to call. Like, there's a huge gap between, when a house gets listed, and if you are the first person, maybe the second person to call, you could have an opportunity to, like, convince that agent and, like, actually make the deal happen, like, that day. Right. And, like, I found success doing that. But if I was like the 5th or 10th person to call, it's really not, the best opportunities. But what's important here, and why I think it's important to not just totally write it off, is, you don't need a huge team just to be calling all day. What's important are the relationships that you can actually develop from pursuing those types of deals. And what I've found is that my relationships have made all of the difference in the world to my business, and just the consistency of developing those relationships, bringing me then the properties that, that agent, for instance, might not be able to work on that particular deal, but the next one, we developed such a good rapport and, relationship with, they want to bring that deal to us first and not have to go through the hassle of taking it to the market. And so really, that's the opportunity that most people, I think, are missing out on, is they're just like thinking that it's shark infested waters and there's no opportunity maybe on that particular deal, but you're not thinking about the long game and what's possible over time.
Okay. So could you tell everybody a little bit about how you've been making money in the last couple months, and the exclusive way that you've been doing that? Like the exclusive source that you've been using to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Just to make sure that I'm covering what you want to cover, how specifically do you want me to discuss how I've been making money?
Just talk about how you're getting these deals right now.
Cool. Yeah. So, kind of tying off of what you were just saying, I didn't have a ton of money to to get deals.
Yeah.
when I like stopped, I was a broke college kid. So I had to kind of figure out, like, my question was, how can I get off market opportunities that are exclusively coming to me without going to these huge other companies? I know a guy in San Diego that spends $90,000 a month in direct mail advertising. I don't know about you, but I don't have 90 grand to spend a month.
Yeah.
And like, it worked, which is great. But so the question then became, how can I get these leads for cheap, if not free, right? So I believe the quality of the questions that we ask dictates the quality of the answers, right?
Mm.
So basically, I discovered, and this is actually kind of funny. I'll tell you how I figured this out. Basically, there was a software change. So every MLS has their own kind of like UI overlay onto the MLS. Ours is called Paragon in San Diego here. And when it was actually brand new, when they relaunched it, they accidentally launched it with the feature that you could export all of the emails in the entire database. And when I saw that, I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, well, finally they did it, like, they're making it easier for, for people to really connect, right? But then they removed it the next week, and I was like, oh no, like, I missed the opportunity to like get all that data. But what I realized after talking with some agents was that they were just getting blown up left and right, and they hated it. They could not stand just getting bombarded. And basically what investors were doing, they were just abusing that opportunity, and agents were just basically like turning off their email and their cell phone. They're just like, they just wanted to wait until it stopped. So what I did was discover how to build quality relationships at scale by using the MLS, but being very specific with who I'm developing the relationships with and in the methodology that I am. And the way that I do that is to not, make it seem like they're one in a million, where there's a lot of real estate agents out there. Let's not make any mistake about that. So what I discovered was that we need to really develop relationships to them as if it's like, I'm developing a relationship with you, Dan. And like, I'm going to talk with you, and I'm planning to talk with you over the next few months and next few years. And that's going to have, the longevity of our conversation is going to have multiple threads of conversation, different, email threads, and et cetera. So really, having the patience, developing a strategy of building that relationship. I like to do it only through email, because I don't have a lot of time, and I don't have a huge team to run, a phone center. And if you do, you can do this way faster and a way much more effective scale. But email is the best way, in my opinion.
So you're telling us that you've been able to source off-market opportunities from real estate agents that nobody else is really getting access to, and it's all done through email.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's amazing. I feel like right now the attention is all about direct to seller marketing.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Doing cold calling, doing direct mail, doing your RVMs, even some door knockers I'm starting to hear more about.
Sure.
And everybody kind of thinks that working with realtors is a pain in the butt and that there's no real opportunities there.
Sure.
Can you just kind of give us an idea of the volume of off-market opportunities that agents are actually sending, just to sort of tell people like what's actually happening in the market right now?
Yeah, totally, man. And I definitely agree. There's a lot of unique strategies, and there's a ton of different ways, and I'm not saying any one way works better than others. And like, there might be, and whatever's working for, people that are on the call right now, that's great. Like, keep doing what you're doing. I'm not saying like change and just completely, just do this. I'm just sharing what works for me, and why I haven't really needed or spent any money on marketing. I've been doing this now for 6 years, and I haven't spent $1 on marketing. And like, that works crazy for me, and that works for, what I'm trying to achieve with my business. But just for instance, in the last 4 days, I was just doing my numbers, and we did So I wanted to kind of test this in a totally new market to kind of just determine, is it actually me? And because I've been doing this for 6 years, do I actually have like some kind of reputation? So I wanted to like let like my ego like go. And so I basically just did a test pilot in a completely new market and another equally competitive market, Los Angeles, which I don't know if you know that market at all, but it's also just sharks in the water. It's a big bloodbath. But anyways, we got 24 off-market deals in the past 4 days, which is great. And so that's an easy volume to be consistent in terms of, depending on how often the systems that I set up run. We can do it daily or weekly or monthly. Kind of just depends on how much I'm traveling and how often I decide that I want to spend on email. I don't like to spend more than like an hour a day on email. That's my preference.
Right.
So
Chris Martin is in shock right now.
Oh, nice. I like your emoji. That's a good one.
So tell me a little bit about like people don't, I guess, realize that agents can send markets before the listing.
Yeah. And one of the quick things I wanted to mention to you, Dan, about what you were saying is like real estate agents are their own breed. And if anyone's been working with real estate agents for, any amount of time, that there's a full spectrum of agents that you can work with. I'm a huge believer that we should only work with agents and people that we want to work with, because like, why do anything if you're not enjoying it, right? So if we're going to have a business and we're going to have, doing deals, like let's do deals that we enjoy working with. So first of all, if you're dealing with an agent that you don't like, or they're just kind of like hassling you, it's like, there's so many more people that you can work with that are really, really good at what they do. And like, you don't need to spend your time working with people. So like, let's put those people over in this box and just say like, okay, like we're just not going to work with that person anymore. I have so many agents that I've determined like I don't want to talk to, and just like I would rather not work with that person because they're not nice or whatever. So like, I just want to give that to the people that are listening. It's like, you don't have to work with those people if you don't want to, because there's plenty of others that are out there.
Yeah. And not all real estate agents are a pain in the butt to work with.
Exactly. I have some of the best people in the world that I'm working with that I enjoy. Like when I see their number pop on my phone, I'm like, awesome, this person gets it and they want to bring me a deal. And like, I'm happy to experience that. And anyone can build that. But one of the things I wanted to mention real quick about, you were talking about different strategies, and you were also talking about how agents can, bring opportunities before, they bring it to the market. So just consider this. Real estate agents are likely doing this as a career, right? So real estate agents aren't just trying to do it one deal a month. Like they're trying to build up as big of a pipeline as they can, and they're trying to make money, right? I mean, real estate agents are living off of their commissions. And so considering that that's the case, real estate agents are then going out and marketing the hell out of their services. They're the ones going to do door knocking. They're the ones going to meet with people at their homes and spending money on marketing online. And so my thought process is, if all of these people are spending money and they're already getting the actual lead, like the seller, right? They're making the money back when they make commissions, which is good for them. But why don't we just go ahead and utilize that and make sure that they're just bringing us the deal, so that, like we're making it easy for everyone and it's a win-win-win. So that's the strategy that I like, and agents definitely can bring a ton of off-market deals.
That's a kind of an amazing, like, gold gem that I think a lot of people need to understand. I used to get deals off market from realtors in the REO days. It's totally possible. And we'll talk about sort of how to get the reputation and the rapport for them to be comfortable to send you those deals. But I just wanted to mention that, agents are a huge untapped source of opportunity right now, given the state of real estate investor marketing, because the sellers that you're working with, you have to understand that most people trust a real estate agent more than they're going to trust the We Buy Houses guy. So let the agents, build the trust with the seller and do all the direct to seller work on their end. especially if they're working for, like a major brokerage house, a seller's going to trust them and go to them way more than they're going
Totally.
to call, their mom and pop local investor. So that is just a huge untapped pool of sellers. And you might have targeted these people with your direct mail, et cetera, but you don't have an in with them, but you can get an in through these agents that you're going to build a relationship with. And so let's talk a little bit about that agent psychology, building rapport with agents, how to show up let's say if you've never done a deal before, how do you engage a new realtor and get them on board to send you deals?
Sure, man. Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. Trust is the currency. That is really what it comes down to. There's a ton of companies now that are buying houses, letting sellers list their house on the market. Redfin's doing it, Zillow, Open Door, like they're all you can even get a cash offer within like a day on these websites. But you got to remember that some crazy, don't quote me on this number, but it's like 98% of real estate transactions are still being done with a real estate agent. Yeah. And like, that's important to think about. Most people, from my experience, most people want to trust that an expert understands the process. There's a ton of legal elements that go into a sale, and they want to make sure that they're also getting the most amount of money for the property. So they're going to work, likely, like the majority of people, at least today, right? I mean, maybe when the entire, the people that own all the properties are, you and I, where we're just going to be buying and selling houses on, online and like on blockchain and with Bitcoin, right? Like that might be different, but for the next foreseeable future, it's going to be working with real estate agents in a large volume. But you had a question. So can you remember what your question was?
Yeah. Let's just talk about the first sort of line of communication with them. How do you get them to trust you? How do you get them to know that you have cash, that you can buy properties? And even before you do that, it actually might be good to clarify how you position yourself just as someone that can buy a property in general. Some people are asking about what your exit strategy is, et cetera.
Cool. Yeah, man. So are you familiar with the straight line persuasion, Jordan Belfort?
Yeah.
Cool. So just
sell me this pen.
Yeah, exactly. So the general psychology behind, selling is you need to be a figure of authority, be enthusiastic as hell, and sharp as a tack, right? Only one of those variables is really able to be kind of constructed before you have an opportunity to engage with someone. So that's like, are you an investor? Do you have proof of your past, dozen transactions? Do you have a website? Do you have an online presence? Do you have, all of these things that a legitimate company would have, right? You're not just someone that's just calling them out of the blue and telling them who you are. Like, people like to do their research and understand, they want social proof, and they want to see, like, why should I trust you, right? Like, back to the trust thing is the currency. Most people are used to, and especially agents, like, they're getting called and hit all the time, like, and getting sold something. So like, why would they trust you? So having that figure of authority element kind of dialed in before you go into this process is important. Okay. And I'm sure that everyone's listening to this right now has some form or fashion of that, but it could be, cleaned up a little bit, but I think that's a really important first step.
So you're only using email, so you have to be just sending them website videos. Like, can you tell us a little bit about how you build your rapport?
Yeah, man. So I like to control the flow of the conversation and the flow of their attention. So consider that if I send you an email and it has my phone number, it has my LinkedIn, it has my website, it has my email, like everything that I have, a bunch of attachments, you're going to be so damn overwhelmed that you're not going to know what to do. And you're probably just going to like go to the next email, right? So what I've done is decided to create a narrative of what's the conversation that I want to have. And, initially developing a relationship with an agent. Let's say you're an agent and I'm going to reach out to you and just try to establish the rapport with the agent about something that they're interested in. For instance, the property that they're working on. Like if we're working on a property that's active on the market, emailing them, asking about the deal, letting them know that you know what the questions are that should be asked when you're working on a project with them. You're kind of giving them a little bit of a taste of your experience of being the buyer that they would want to work with, right? Like if you were put yourselves into the agent's shoes, who would you want to work with as a buyer? And then be that, give them the experience. And I do this, especially even on deals that I know I'm not going to have any chance of buying. There's already 10 other offers, but you want to make them feel good. There's a really cool saying in neurolinguistic programming that people don't remember you for what you say. They remember you for how you make them feel. And I feel like that's really important. And so developing the initial feeling around who you are as a buyer is really helpful. Having a website on your email as being the primary direction outside of the email conversation, that can lead to your website, your proof of your history, testimonials, things like that, more social proof, and controlling how they're navigating and interacting with you. That's really, really important.
Okay, so you're essentially leading with questions that prove you know what you're talking about.
Right.
That you're using lingo related to the deal that makes it sound like you're an experienced investor.
That's right.
Before showing them your website and your LinkedIn and your past deal experience.
Lead with intention, and you're trying to align with the agent's highest goal. And at the moment, their highest goal is to close that deal. And so if you can be seen in their eyes as a potential, vehicle to achieve that goal, then you're all of a sudden become really, really important to this person. And what's great about that is that there's a ton of different ways to do that. I saw one of the questions on here. What's the incentive to bring you the deal? So yeah, and back end, yeah, exactly. So real estate agents are getting bombarded. They're bringing their house to the market for try to get the seller the best prices they can. They're getting the list. They want to represent a buyer. So they want to collect here in San Diego, it's an average of 5% commission. They want to collect at least 5%. So trying to communicate with them like, hey, if we work with you on the deal, we'll also be able to offer you a relist. Now, obviously, whichever investor is working on the deal, you need to factor in the numbers for yourself before you make your offer. But offering an agent 1.5% on the back end, that's really enticing for them to want to pay attention to your conversations, because now they're looking at 6.5% instead of just 5, or instead of just 2.5%. Does that make sense?
Okay. So are you giving them that incentive up front, or that just works itself out?
I found that the conversations tend to flow kind of naturally. When and I'm not talking like on the very first email, like whoever is listening to this, like, please don't just send like a multi-paragraph, initial email to these agents and expect to have this like resounding experience. Like, people want to be led. Like, you need to hold their hand and walk them through, what it could be like to work with you. And so you might expect, 5, 6 different email threads that come along with, one conversation, but you're trying to build this relationship so that they bring you a deal a month or a deal a year, whatever it might be. If they're working on a property that's a fixer, they're likely going to deal with the property that's like a fixer in the future.
Okay. I think it would just be good for people to understand what the intention for this is. So I know, just as a caveat, this training is designed for people that are going to acquire the properties themselves.
Right.
Kyle has been working with other companies and helping them source deals. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, because we're talking to mainly wholesalers on this call.
Awesome. Wholesaling is great. I love the idea of wholesaling. So my strategy is essentially, I used to flip houses, and I didn't personally find a lot of fulfillment with that. And I just didn't like the management and all the overhead, and it was just like a hassle. And actually, in the time that I realized when I was flipping my first house, I actually wholesaled 3 houses in that same time frame and made more money than the flip. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to pay attention here. So I basically discovered that what I'm good at is generating off-market opportunities. And
Creating
so
systems.
in creating systems, exactly. And so understanding how to influence people at scale. So I decided to align with the top investment companies in my area. And, these guys do 10 plus houses a month. So they have the whole process dialed in on the back end to take care of it. There's three most important parts of the deal. There's the acquisition, there's the renovation, and then there's the disposition, right? And so I come in on the acquisition side. So I partner with investment firms that are local, and I work really closely with my investment partners, and I bring in the relationship and the deal, and they help with acquiring it. They bring the funds, they bring the renovation and all the capital, and take it over. So I can, like where I was starting the call with you this morning, I can work outside on the beach and, work for like an hour a day, just handling, emails and just basic pipeline work, and enjoy the rest of my day. And that's why I'm doing this.
So uh, for all intents and purposes, you're like a consultant for the top acquisition
Sure.
companies, and they pay you a consulting fee on a deal basis.
Yeah, exactly. I'm heading to one of my investment partners' office today to pick up a check. And the way
Nice.
that I like to see, and really, I think what's great about wholesaling is that you really minimize your risk, and I'm sure all the wholesalers understand that. But what I've effectively done was learned how to take myself out of the deal entirely. So I work with my investment partners. We work really closely. And, I've actually gotten to a point where I don't even want to get the house under contract initially, because like, I don't even want that type of overhead to, worry about, changing the title over in escrow or anything crazy like that. I would just rather understand which investment partner is best for a particular deal, work with them really closely to get the acquisition price dialed in before we even make an offer. And then I negotiate my fee into that. They don't care how much I make. Because what matters is that a deal is profitable and they're happy acquiring a profitable deal, and then acquire the deal at a certain price. The delta is my consulting fee, and they get a property. Super easy.
Yeah. So all of this relies on having a solid trusting relationship with the acquisitions team that you're working with. That's the caveat. And
Well, I mean,
by
it's
no
not a
means,
caveat. It's a presupposition. Like you
yeah.
need to develop a relationship with who you're working with before doing a deal with them. Like you don't want to be caught flat-footed and then in escrow with an investor who's, going to mess around and, try to negotiate and reduce prices and all that stuff. Like that, those games are not fun, and I don't wish them on anyone.
Yeah. So Kyle gets paid to build systems at scale to develop these relationships and get sourced these deals from what I understand to be hundreds of different agents. It's not just one or two. Thousands of different agents.
Yeah.
And that skill set is what I want the InvestorFuse community to understand for your own exit strategies, whether you're acquiring it yourselves. This could even work for if you're wholesaling too, right? You would just have to,
absolutely,
you would just put your name on the contract and make sure that there's an, assignment clause in there.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you're going to be doing this as a wholesaler and understanding that your exit strategy is to, let's say, sell this potentially to a pool of 10 buyers, right? Like that's let's just assume it's 10. You're going into this doing your own analysis, doing your own renovation costs, and determining, hopefully that this price that you have it under contract is what you need to buy it at, right? So understanding that, going back to the initial relationship with the real estate agents, your level of transparency is really going to help with your overall acquisition strategy, because the last thing that you want to do is have a house in escrow and then have to explain why you're backing out or why you're changing, the contract over. So, depending on your level of comfortability, explaining who these other investors are, who your partners are, and then, not giving the level of certainty that, you might otherwise do if you haven't had a non-contingent offer. Don't promise the moon to someone and then take it away from them. Let them know that you're building in an inspection period because you need to have your numbers looked at. You're going to have your crews walk through and double check everything in your inspection period. And like, and you will dial in your numbers then. Like, don't promise the moon and then take it away. That'll burn bridges. And the whole point of doing this is to develop relationships that work for the real estate agents. And you're doing them a service wholesaling the deal too, because you're helping them transact to the right buyer, right? I think wholesaling's gotten a horrible rap in this industry. But I think it's a great service for people, and especially working with the top buyers. Like, working with the top buyers isn't easy either. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's super intriguing. What do you guys think so far about this, by the way? Just, are you guys following? I see there's a couple questions that I believe we've covered. Some folks want to understand a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the system and how you're able to do this at scale, which we'll talk about. By the way, I know Kyle actually trains people on how to do this, so we can talk more about that towards the end. He showed me this like 100-page document that he has, because he systemized it to the point that he only looks at his email for an hour a day. So you have VAs that are doing most of the actual communication, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of systems. Standard operating procedures are one of the easiest ways to really make your business work for you. Mm-hmm. And so just over the years, I've been documenting hiring virtual assistants in the Philippines, and I have a guy in Spain. I have a girl in Central America, and all underneath like $5 an hour. I think my overall overhead is like less than $1,000 a month, and that easily generates over $10,000 a month.
Man, Kyle.
What's cool, man, is like anyone can do this if they're willing to set up the systems and put in the initial legwork. Like, I'm not just sitting here saying that like, oh, well, like if you build relationships with agents, like deals are just gonna flow to you. Like there's a science to this, and there's a methodology. But what I figured out is it's not that hard to figure out, and if you do it consistently, leads will just kind of show up in your inbox, which is that's the dream, right? You just want leads to show up for you.
Yeah. He was showing me screenshots of his inbox the other day when he was just talking to me about the strategy. And there was like the sexiest subject lines, like probate deal, off-market rehab, like people just sending him these deals. And from what I understand, like it seemed like those agents like are only sending those deals to you. Like they don't have a whole list of investors that they're sending them to, right?
Yeah, man. Let me pull up my email. I can show you a couple.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Chris says, I love the lead gen plus JV partners while sitting on the beach model. who
Dude, I'm telling you, it's great. So one thing on that real quick is that I haven't met anyone in person. I haven't been to any properties. Here's the funny part, and I rarely tell this, but I'm going to tell this to you because I think you'll get a kick out of it. Sometimes I don't even know what the house looks like. Like I don't even look at a picture of it. I don't look at Google Earth. Like I don't even know, dude. I forget what the addresses are like half the time.
Oh
like I don't care, right? Like it's not the point. And like that's how I built my business, and like that's why I want to do deals that like all I'm doing is trading value, right?
It's not that you don't care; it's that you trust in the systems that you created.
That's it.
It's because
it doesn't matter. The address doesn't matter. What the house looks like doesn't matter. What matters is that there's a party that is selling something that they own, and that I'm helping to get that into the hands of someone who is actually really wanting to buy it, right? And that's the bridge. And the meta level awareness of like, what does a house look like? What specific damages does it have? Like I'm allowing for my investors to go through and do all that themselves. They're taking care of that. I am focusing on building the relationship and building the trust and getting the agent to send the information that is needed to then move it forward.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you train the agents on how specifically to send properties to you. And then I'm also assuming that your VAs have some level of pre-qual before they send them to your investors.
Yeah. So keeping in mind that most people are unorganized and they don't have like, they're not used to systems, right? So something that I realized is that if someone's going to send me an off-market deal, I'm going to not be very
You don't care how they send it.
constructive. Yeah, I'm gonna help them send me the right information. So like a lot of times, and like you'll probably experience this to yourself because I know that you're wanting to do this in Austin.
Yeah.
You'll notice that like an agent will just send you an address. Like they won't even put in like any information. They'll just like send you an address, and you're like, great, like let me look this up on Redfin and see if it's on the market or if it's off market. It's like, okay, cool, it's off market. So then I have some templates. So I basically figured out that conversations with real estate agents go like the same way. Like there's not a million different conversations. There's like 18. Like I mapped it out. Like there's only so many ways that it can really go. So I spent, an afternoon in a coffee shop one day, and I wrote out my answers and I saved them as templates so that every time I encountered this scenario, I could just send the template and then get what I needed back. That's how I do it less than an hour a day. Like I can go through 100 emails with every different scenario you can think of in less than an hour. And that's amazing. That allows,
do that.
Or my VA could do it. Right. To give you some scale, I timed myself last week just to see like what I can do. Super easy. And that's also important to have your systems dialed in so that someone else can do for you what you would do for yourself. And so, yeah, over the past year, I've had VAs sending emails as me and doing a ton of deals. Yeah, it works really well.
So cool.
I feel like we just got off on a tangent there. I don't remember where we were going.
Yeah. So let's just sort of talk about the A to B a little bit. So there's a lot of details. There's 100-page SOP worth of details here, but let's just talk in general about the macro, starting with the lists in the MLS. Like, so how are we using the MLS in this process? And then how are you able to manage the communications with hundreds of different realtors?
Sure. Here, really quick, Dan, let me show you my screen. I just want to make sure that I can use the Zoom share function properly.
Yeah.
Let me know if you can see my screen when I show you here.
I can see it. Off market. That is a great subject line to get.
Yeah. So these are good. So 2 off market deals here. See if I can open this up for you here. Perfect. Yeah. So 2 off market deals. So what's important to see here is that it's not necessarily so important that the deals themselves are, great opportunities. What's important is that you have opportunities coming to you that are off market, right? Like that is the dynamic that you want to establish. So here's one. This agent's even telling us what price that we can buy it at. We've removed all the debris, relocated the owner, and cleared up the title. It's ready for renovation and also could accommodate an ad unit. So this is great. Wow. So some agents do send information like that. They're like, they know the game and they're trying to get you the deal. Here's another one. Take a look at, this deal. And I wanted to make sure that this one is off market. I was actually looking at it today. So I just, what you basically can notice here is that it says not for sale. So you always want to obviously like check to prioritize your leads. And then here's another one. We have an off market.
This is all in LA and you've never done business in LA before.
I've never talked to any of these people ever before. Because I wanted to make sure like, is it really that I've developed relationships? So these are all first initial contacts with these people, with the systems that I've developed. I do have a property for you to check. It's this property
before these emails have been sent. There's been a series of rapport building emails, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a general context of understanding how to get these agents to send you deals, and so who you're working with and how you approach the conversation matters.
What's funny about this strategy is that it's so damn simple that it's mind-blowing. Like Hussein's amazing stuff. Anna said, okay, wow, I get those from agents all the time. Never really paid much attention to those emails. Changing that today. especially if they're off market. And I think it's worth taking a look at those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Two things on what you just said. It's simple. The concepts that go behind relationship building are simple. Like, it's not rocket science. I mean, there's books. I have a bunch of books here, like understanding, who's got your back, how to win friends and influence people, right? Like, these are basic things. Like, it's not hard to develop relationships, and people have learned about it. They've broken it down into a science. And so what I've really done is figured out how to take those into also persuasion skills. This is like a little trick book and like how
that's
to say
that's an NLP book.
This is an NLP book. So I'm basically like just studied the hell out of like, what is the most efficient and effective way of developing relationships with people with language and just like the general principles, broke it down into a funnel of basically like, how do I put as many people as possible? I want to be able to put thousands of people into this process a week and be able to manage it, but also get the highest return output out of it. And so back to what Anna was saying, for the emails that she's getting, if you're getting emails from agents, that means that you're doing something right, because they're seeing you as a figure of authority. And even if they are those, blast emails where it's like, attention investor, like, here's this big display.
Right.
Okay, like, you don't need to potentially work on that deal, but that's an indication you should see as like, you're doing something that is, you're getting on the radar of people who have deals. And then it's like, how can you take that and then develop relationships with those people? Because before they send it out to their huge list, they're also probably sending it to a few key investors that will give the agent the best deal. And then the ones that they don't work with those investors, they'll fall back to their big list. And you're probably on their big list right now.
Yeah. Just trying to understand the psychology behind why they would send a off market to you versus listing it and getting the maximum price for it.
Sure. I mean, there's a ton of reasons. You probably...
Is laziness one of them?
I would say maybe convenience is a better way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many real estate agents that are absolutely they get wrecked by going into escrow and having experiences fall out over and over and over again with investors who say one thing and they do another. And so imagine being a real estate agent and you're talking with this, 80-year-old woman who is trying to sell her, property that she just hasn't kept up, and she's just trying to, make her retirement money. And you're like, I'm going to give you the most that you can get. And then they take it to market, and then this investor promises 50 grand over what they should be getting. Like, imagine that. You're like, oh my God, like, everything's great. Like, we're going into escrow tomorrow, like, whatever. They're just going to walk the house and see if everything's okay, which it is, like, everything's great. And then the investor makes up some bullshit, or like, realizes that they're not able to perform because they only offered 50 grand more because everyone was kind of bidding it up. Because like, whoever's going to, talk to an agent, they're like, send me your highest and best offer. I'm sure all the people on the call right now have experienced that. Send me your highest and best. And so when they say that to every person, it kind of has this artificial inflation element to it. They cancel escrow, the seller's morals get, messed up. And then inevitably the agent's like, I never want to do that again. And so if you come along and you have that awareness and you have that understanding, you can communicate that you get that, what I just said, and you're not going to do that to them. And, you can express, one of the things that I've done, and one of the things that I found really effective in helping agents get over that, is to explain how I'm not going to fuck them. Like, how am I going to help them out so that they don't experience that? And so one of the ways that I've found helpful is I've actually decided I'm never going to write an offer that is not non-contingent. Why would I do that? Well, first of all, I don't want the headache of wondering if an escrow is going to fall through. Getting a house in escrow, just in general, it's hard enough. You have like paperwork, you got to deal with transaction coordinators, with escrow agents, like wiring info, like all that nonsense. Like, that's a lot of work to do, right? So like, if I get a house in escrow, I just want it to go through and not have to think about it. Like, I want to go to yoga. I want to go walk on the beach, right? Like, I don't want to have to think about if my escrow is going to go through. So getting your teams out to the properties before you actually write offers helps a ton. And how to get there is understanding that you can communicate to the agent like, hey, if you tell me a price that works for your seller, I'll work with my team here and my analysts to determine if we're like even close. And if you're giving me like a verbal ballpark, I'll get my team out there and we can dial in the offer before we even write it. And then you can take the non-contingent offer to your seller and explaining to your sellers, hey, this offer is legit. All of these other ones, you need to kind of like, realize that it's apples to oranges, right? And help the agent understand the difference, because a lot of them don't even know what an offer with contingencies mean. And so with experience, you can say like that offer that's 20 grand higher that has a week contingency period. If they're a legitimate company, they don't need a week, right? Like we can get our team out there today and we can remove our contingencies today. And if they're not willing to do that, then I wouldn't hold as much water in that bucket. Then your seller really can your seller can take our offer to the table and to the bank, and we can close, in a couple of days, like no questions. We open escrow tomorrow, money goes hard into escrow, and then we're just going to move forward to closing. That's how you close a deal without, screwing anyone over. That's a win-win-win scenario in my book.
Yeah. And the more you do that, the more deals you're going to get from that agent, especially.
I've gotten so many repeat deals for Dan. It's crazy. Like agents are like, that our last deal was so smooth and easy. Like, I want to work with you on the next deal. That alone is like the key. I'm going to close my window real quick. There's some landscapers outside. I don't know if you can pick that up.
I can't really hear it, but I'm sure it's distracting for you.
It's okay.
Guys, how epic is this? So I'm gonna start asking Kyle a little bit about how this scales and how you can talk with Kyle to figure out if this is how you can do this in your market. I'm definitely gonna have that conversation with Kyle because I want to start doing this in Austin, which is a pretty competitive market. And being a systems guy myself, I know I can make a dent.
Yeah, there's some questions coming up, Dan. Let's address some of these questions. I want to make sure that people understand.
One question that I have on the subject of contingencies and just negotiation in general is, where do you draw the line in the negotiation? Do you let the acquisitions company do the negotiation, or are you actually coming up with the offer price and then sending it to the acquisitions company? Like where do you stand in that game?
So my specific process, and then what was your question about the contingencies?
Less so about the contingencies. Are you helping the acquisitions team figure out the right offer, or are you just saying, here's an off-market deal and you figure it out?
I've done it all. I mean, I've done every single part of it. I've, dug into comps. I've called, local agents to figure out exactly, and I actually pride myself on seeing that my ARV analysis is like within 5 to 10 grand of like its actual sale. Cause I track all the deals that I do, and like making sure that my investment partners make money is really important to me. It's like all of the deals that I've ever signed off on and said, like, this is the ARV that you should bet on, I've come within 5 to 10 grand of all of those deals. I found that that's not the best use of my time, and it doesn't have a huge ROI. So what I've decided to do is let my investors do what they do best. Because let's be honest, if you're wholesaling a deal, you send an investment package over to your investor, they're going to probably just like glance at it and then do their own work, right? So I basically, I just had a conversation with them. I'm like, listen, guys, like, I'm really good at developing relationships. I don't want to have to. I was also not sending deals because of how I was analyzing opportunities. And I think that I was leaving money on the table because I was like, I might be passing on deals where like, this actually was an experience of mine. I had one of my investors look at a deal and they're like, I'm really happy that you sent this over. When you were thinking about not doing it, because we were just having this conversation. And I was like, I'm just going to send you what I'm looking at and like, let me know if you have any interest, which is great. He's like, I'm doing a flip 3 houses down from this house. And like, how in the hell am I going to know that? Like, that wasn't a comp. And like, unless I look in the purchase history for like purchase comps and then like look at the tax records, like there's so much level of detail that goes into like understanding the potentials there that I wasn't even aware of. And so to answer your question, I decided to work with my investment partners and let them do more of the negotiation in terms of, I'm sorry, not the negotiation, the price, the analyst, analysis. Right. But I played the role of negotiation. I currently play that role. understanding that I can make a lot of money in that capacity. I've also, over the past 3 months, I was working with one of my investment partners, and we did 10 deals in 3 months, and I had my VAs run that system entirely for me, and I didn't talk to one person, and I barely did emails. And this was while I was traveling in Indonesia, and I only brought my iPad. I brought this guy, and I was closing deals, and I was excited about it.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me sharing, you made just under 6 figures while you were in Bali.
Yeah. Total revenue from those months were around 70 grand.
Not bad for $0 marketing.
Yeah, not $1. I don't think that you need it. I honestly, if you have, this is the longevity model. This is understanding that as long as you're in business, if you have a relationship network, Kevin Kelly, he's the co-founder of Wired Magazine, talks about this, and he calls them your 1,000 true fans. And basically, like, if you have 1,000 true fans, no matter what you're in, not necessarily just real estate, but if you have 1,000 people who are like, they're raving fans, like they want to do deals with you, they want to do business with you, like you're going to be okay. Like you're going to, no matter what the market looks like, no matter how much money you do or don't have. And like, I've had the opportunity to put all that money back into my business and like go spend marketing dollars and like, do all that stuff. But like, what I'm doing is working. And like, why would I try to fix what's not broken? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome. So how do you protect yourself if the acquisitions team that you're working with goes directly to the agent? I think some people are asking about that. Do you have an agreement in place?
From the investment company that you would be working with? Yeah, that I understand, and I agree that is a potential issue. And I actually had that happen to me one time. I was working with an investment group who's actually no longer in the area, if that tells you anything about the integrity of who those people might be now. But they were big business here, and they were doing a ton of deals. I actually did 6 deals with that investment company over like maybe a 6-month time period. And I had one main guy, and the main guy like he moved away. So I got transferred to another guy, and like this guy kind of seemed like one of those like shady car salesman kind of guy. And one thing led to the next, and basically like I found out that they were buying he told me that they were going to pass on it. And then because I always track my leads and see who buys them, because I want to know like how much do they buy it for and who bought it, right? Like maybe they should be someone that I should work with. And I found out that they bought it. And that was an immediate burned bridge for them. Yeah. Because like I'm the one bringing the value to beginning the relationship. And I call
their agents too. Like they're missing out on the opportunity from all the other deals you could be bringing them.
Exactly. And so I called the owner of the company, and he was absolutely pissed. I have no idea what happened to that sales guy, but I told him like, listen, man, like no hard feelings to you. Cause like I was friends with the owner, but I'm like, it's my main integrity is my main value. And so like that was initially discarded. And so like, I can't do business with you anymore. Like I don't want to build my business worrying about if you're going to go around my back. And so like, I just chose because there's plenty of other investors to work with that are doing the same amount of volume, and they enjoy like people like us bringing good opportunities to them. And if they don't want to burn bridges and miss out, like that investment company's missed out on dozens of deals since then. It's like, that's what they're losing. So whoever's saying that, like, I understand and I get it. Just realize that you're bringing value, and that you need to have an abundance mindset when it comes to other buyers working with you. And there's probably people that are like really awesome in your area that you can work with, that you'll enjoy talking to. Like you should enjoy calling and like having confidence and faith that even if you put the investor in direct contact with your agent or the seller, like they're going to represent themselves as working with you. And you need to have those conversations up front, right? Like don't just be like concerned and worried about it and then hope that it doesn't go sideways. Like have the clearing conversations. They're the initial challenging ones. But as Tim Ferriss always says, the magnitude of your life and how big your life can become is in direct representation of the amount of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have.
Yeah.
And so have those uncomfortable conversations with your investors ahead of time.
This is all assuming that you're going to do the deal finding route versus just acquiring it yourself or wholesaling it. Mike even said, is it safe to assume Kyle is a deal finder, not a wholesaler? I would say that is true, but you're
No,
a
man,
highly lucrative relationship builder.
here's the thing. It doesn't matter how you approach this. This could be the
Yeah.
same approach as like if I had a partner in my firm, like calling, like I get what the distinction might be, but it's really just a partnership, right? I mean, like I chose to not wholesale because I didn't want to deal with all the hassle. Like I would do the same exact thing. I did this when I was wholesaling. When I was wholesaling deals, I would call my investors and say like, hey, here's the person I'm talking to. Here's the deal. Like I still had them go to the house. Guess who let them through the house? The agent and the
Yeah.
seller. Like they were going, I didn't want to go to these houses. So when I was wholesaling deals, and even when I got under contract first, and then I had 5 or 6 investors walk through, I would say like, hey, here's who it is, and here's the agent's number. Like, and when you talk to them, you're the general contractor, you're my investment partner, like whatever the situation is, and like making sure that they know that before they do it, like then you're good. You just have those conversations ahead of time. It doesn't matter what the dynamic is. I just chose to make it more simple for myself, and I don't want to have to go through the conversations around taking a deal that's in escrow and changing it to a new buyer like that.
Yeah.
I hate that conversation, man.
Yeah.
Escrows are confused. Like people, like red flags go up, man. It's crazy.
So in the next 10 minutes, Kyle, I would like for you to explain the general process for acquiring the list, and then how you're managing the emails, how you're managing the lists, and then why you decided to start teaching this strategy to people. I would like to get that in the next 10 minutes, if you're okay. We're starting with just the overview of, I know you have a certain way to target people on the MLS, and then you also have a way of who not to target, which I think is interesting as well.
Sure. Okay, so first thing that you do is you go to your local real estate investment association, and you spend all day there, and you just talk to as many people as you can, and you hand out business cards. I'm kidding, totally kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Say this is
Don't
too
do that.
old-fashioned.
Do not do that. Oh yeah, those are great establishments. I'm not knocking them at all. I think they're amazing. I've met some really great people at our local RIA. Okay, so I'll try to consolidate it and make it as simple. And here's the thing: it is simple. It's not easy, and it has very nuanced intricacies that go through different spreadsheets, and there's data management processes that go into this. And so like just understanding that if you just go out there like kind of like bull in a china shop and just try to email blast everyone, like you're gonna fall flat-footed. You might get a little bit of initial buzz, but then you'll just be like it's gonna go silent. Like you're not gonna have a multi-year lead generation funnel that can really bring you just exclusive opportunities, and that's the goal. So first thing, obviously having access to your MLS, that's really important. So working with an agent, working with the broker, getting an assistant account. I think we pay like $25 or $50 for a quarter, something really manageable, just to get access to the account. I'm not licensed, for everyone that's watching. I don't want to be licensed. I'm not licensed, and I don't think you need to have a real estate license to make any money in real estate. So I've had many opportunities to do that. I don't personally want to. I don't have to act within any legal guidelines outside of
do what you want.
U.S. laws.
Yeah.
And so setting up the MLS in a way where you are imagine the MLS is this big, I'm trying not to get too nerdy on you here, Dan. It's this big data machine. Okay. Yeah. So all of the people that you want to develop relationships with are in this data machine. Or just imagine it's a big room where there's a ton of people in one big room, and there's a bunch of doors, and people are coming into that room all the time. There's new people coming into that room every day. And so like, if you're trying to build relationships with the people that are in that room, like, wouldn't you want to hang out there a lot? So understanding that MLS is this data system, and there's new real estate agents being minted every day. New agents are trying to build careers out of representing sellers and buyers. And so it's this causeway of understanding that people are coming into it and you have the opportunity to leverage the data system. So setting up your searches for what exactly you're looking for. So understanding what's your criteria, single family homes, multi-units, what's your price range, what are the different zip codes, the different areas that you're working in, right? So understanding that you need to set up your searches so that you can identify, the 80-20. Where are you at? I have so many books over here, Dan. You would love it. The 80-20.
Yes.
That, go ahead.
Read that if you haven't read that, anybody on this call.
Yeah, it's a good book, 80-20, Perry Marshall. The 80-20 of what you're looking for, right? And then understanding that you're trying to identify the agents who are working with the products and the properties that you're interested in, right? So understanding who are working on deals like what you're looking to buy. That obviously makes, you need to know what you're looking for. You need to know
it's like,
what areas and all that stuff.
It's like if you're looking for a buyer's list, you pull the cash comps and same thing.
Exactly. So setting it up so that you know that what you're finding and what the output of those searches are ideal for you. So, some of the things that I have, for instance, my assistants doing are actually, making sure that these houses are good opportunities and gathering information from the MLS to actually contact these people and putting it together in a way where you are predictably building your list out in a way that these properties and these agents are coming into you, and you don't have to worry about, if they're good leads, because you have the systems and you have your team qualifying them to make sure that they are. All right. So that's kind of like that's like phase one. And then phase two is essentially like your relationship building. And it really is a system. I want to make sure that people understand and preface that. Like, this is the system. I don't spend time building relationships. My systems spend time building relationships. Yeah. I spent like a couple hours at a coffee shop, every weekend for like, a couple of months, and like dialed in like this sentence and that sentence and all that fun stuff, which I'm happy to talk about. And, because most people think like, I need to spend all day on the phones. Like, don't talk on the phones. Like, don't spend time on the phones unless you're talking with an agent who has a deal and you already know everything that you need to know about it. That's the only time that you should be on the phone, because otherwise people want convenience. They want, hey, call me. It's like, how about no? How about you send me what I need, and here's why. And like, when we get to this point, we can get on the call, and then, we'll qualify and close the deal.
And you have templates for all, like, you have templates for your VAs to answer to the call me now response.
Yeah. I made this really cool. I call it like a decision matrix, which is cool because it's kind of like, depending on the status of the property, depending on what information we have, right? Do we have pictures? Do we have an address? Do we have price? Do we have renovation? Major items. And it's kind of like determining like what we have, and like, if it's kind of like a big flow diagram, like if yes, then you answer this, and if no, like answer this way, right? Because like, I was spending a lot of time on emails, and I was planning to take a trip, and I'm like, I don't want to touch my email. And so like, I built out this rule system and saying like, hey, like, this is how we get all of the important information that we need in order to make a decision at a certain level. And so creating those things ahead of time and making sure that you're proofreading your own work and then setting that up as a system to give to your assistants, you don't have to worry about anything if they're not freehand writing responses, as long as they can read English and understand how to respond in a way that you have decided for them to. That's all you're solving for.
Yeah. So we don't have enough time to go into the details of the tech side of things, but for all intents and purposes, you're using Gmail and spreadsheets to manage all this, and then like some fancy integrations where you can actually fire off emails from your spreadsheet somehow, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It's a little bit nerdy. There's a lot of, I have like a big tech background, so there's more just like understanding how you can leverage common tools and really easy things to make it work for you. And it doesn't need to be crazy. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars for like any, crazy marketing system.
Right.
Yeah, it's really simple.
I think the beauty of it is it's just outsourceable, right? Like the systems that you created, I was talking to you, like there's probably other software tools that could do it, but like you figured out a system
Sure.
that you just have your VAs worry about it and it works.
They don't even have to worry about it. They just need to do it. Right.
They
It's
just
like,
need to do
it works if you work it. Right. And so this is a industry that's still built on relationships, man. And like humans need to talk and like communicate. And so like in order to scale this, you need to have systems in place. I mean, I'm able to keep up with 6,000 real estate agents every 2 weeks. And so, if anyone on this call, ask yourself, like, are your systems currently set up so that you can accept and receive opportunities from, even 200 people a week, right? Can you handle that? And if you can, and you're not actually getting those results, then you should ask yourself why. And, really think about what would your business look like if you did receive that volume of opportunities. I'm obviously not promising like 200 a week or anything crazy like that, but it's a lot, and it's enough to sustain. It's a worthwhile lead generation proper process for you to consider.
Yeah. So you've basically perfected this over the last 5 years. Why did you feel inspired to start teaching people this strategy now?
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking.
Because by the way, Kyle is not like a guru. He's like my friend that I've been
totally
watching for a long time. So I've been like asking him like, all right, can we like, do you want to teach people about this? Like, do you want to teach me about it? He's finally opening up his book. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, man. Well, what's cool is like, I feel like this is just a natural evolution in like my journey. I've been doing this business for 6 years. And I am seeing an opportunity for personal growth to really go down the path of helping other people, experience the benefits and the successes that I might have had over the past. And so like, to be honest, like my strengths are in systems and in understanding how to influence and persuade people. And I want to get really, really good at those things. And so, like real estate's great. I love the freedom and the profits and the potential that it has to impact people's lives. And so I think like leveraging that and helping people like yourself or other people who are looking to have their business work for them instead of spending, 9 hours a day in an office. Like I would rather people be, letting their systems work for them. They make the money and they're traveling the world or doing whatever they want to do with their time and energy. And that makes me feel like I'm actually doing my part. And I know some people that flip houses and that wholesale deals, and they absolutely love it. And that's what they're doing. And they're just trying to do more of that. And so I'm trying to connect with those people and like join forces so that they can leverage what I understand and amplify what they're working on.
So there's a lot of stones that we didn't have time to turn over. I think you've opened up your calendar to talk with some folks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I'd be happy to talk to anyone that's interested to dive deeper. And I do need to run in a little bit here to another appointment, but I hope we covered at least some ground that is valuable.
This was incredible. I think if anything, it just showed that like, if you look where other people aren't looking and you build systems around that, it's possible to create a really profitable and lucrative lead generation stream. So how do people get a hold of you and schedule that discussion?
Sure. Yeah. Send me an email. So my first name is Kyle, Kyle, and we can put this in the chat as well. Kyle, my last name is Good. And yes, that's really my last name. 10, so 10, KyleGood10 @gmail. And send me an email. Let me know who you are. Obviously mention the InvestorFuse and this call. And then we can go from there.
KyleGood10 @gmail.com. I just typed it in the Zoom webinar chat. Can you guys leave a comment so you can see that? I want to make sure it came through. Kyle, did I spell it right?
You did, and I can see it.
Awesome.
Thanks,
This,
Chris.
this, this is good. Do you guys see the value in this? I believe that within the next year, this strategy and the systems that you have to share are going to proliferate extremely quickly, because I know how competitive it is with all the other direct channels, and no one has quite figured out how to crack the code with agents at scale. And I believe you have. And I'm really, really excited about that. I hope you guys are too. As of now, it's myself and the 13 of you on this call that know about this strategy. So take advantage of it. Hit up Kyle, have a conversation to see if this is going to work for you. And I wish you all the best of luck. This was a really amazing training. I was super excited to talk about this because from a marketing perspective, this is pure gold. And you, my friend, are extremely generous for coming on. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. I wanted to say something real quick on that too, man. Like, talking to you today and really, being on this call, like, I wanted to share this with, obviously with you, but also to your community. I love everything that you've been up to. I love the people, and I've had the privilege of talking with some of the people in InvestorFuse HQ. And, what's important to me, kind of back what I was saying earlier, and like having a business that you work with the people that you enjoy, knowing who you are and knowing some of the people that I've already talked to, I'm doing this because I want to work with people that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
So like, I could easily, go, link this up with like Bigger Pockets or whoever and just like get this out to the masses. It's like, I want to make sure that I'm working with people that I really enjoy, that the people that, want to make a difference with their businesses, have the opportunity to. And I'm like, I would really rather this not be in the hands of people that are just going to try to abuse like the dynamic. And I don't think anyone that you would be connected to or that's on this call like would have that. So I just wanted to share that with you, that's important as well. So, aligning with the right people and getting it into the right people's hands is important.
Super appreciative of that. And the InvestorFuse community is exactly the audience that you want to be talking to. Everybody's
Cool, man.
Deal closers. I appreciate all of you for joining. I appreciate you, Kyle, for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you being on the call today. This has been awesome.
And if you registered for this at all, you'll get the replay if you want to watch this through again. So I'll send out the replay.
Perfect.
It'll come through tomorrow at 12 p.m. EST, just automatically. Hope you guys go out and crush it. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.
All right. See you guys.